What is up, all you real estate loving individuals? This is episode number 12 of the Real Estate Take podcast, and I'm your host, Wendell Butler. This is your go-to podcast with tons of information regarding the current real estate market, where we get various real estate professionals' current take on different areas of real estate. For today's guest, we have Christian Walker. Christian Walker is a house flipper, commercial, and industrial general contractor. Christian lives in Southeast Texas, and that is primarily where he likes to invest. He owns a residential remodeling business and also brokers hard money loans. His commercial business is Core Group, and his residential business is Walker Renovations and Remodeling. His fix and flip business is Walker Real Estate Investments. So he's got a lot going on. I love that we have him on so he can try to dive deep into how he got started and his passion behind real estate and what he's trying to do, and also give some quick tips and information to people that are watching this video that are interested in getting into what he's doing. So let's welcome on Christian Walker. So Christian, how you doing today, man?
Doing good, man. Thanks for having me. Good to be here. Good to see you again. It's been a minute. Happy to be on here and give some good advice.
Heck yeah, man. I'm glad to have you on. And I actually met Christian, one of our masterminds. It's called the Better Life Tribe, and we met in Hawaii at an REI summit with Brandon Turner. You guys probably know his name. He has a long beard. He used to have podcasts on Bigger Pockets, but it's pretty popular. But yeah, me and Christian linked up there, and it's great, man. I'm glad that we got to connect again. I know we've both been really busy, and just excited to get to know more about what you do and provide some value to people.
For sure. Yeah. It's been a hustle. Been trying a little hard to get a good schedule on, but we finally made it work. Here we go.
Heck yeah, man. So let's dive on into it. Very basic questions. Just going to go through some stuff and you take it from there. But just the first question, like, who are you? I just want people to understand who you are, like where you're from, and kind of what got you into real estate, and what is your backstory?
So my name is Christian Walker. I got into real estate. So I guess who I am first is I have God in my business in every aspect, and that's kind of what fuels my success in a sense. But I give all props to him to keep me rolling and everything like that. So my neighbors growing up, they had a bunch of shopping centers in the area, and I kind of was like looking at it. And my mom, how I got into real estate was she was their secretary. So she kind of was in a different side of that, but I was like kind of more focused on the investing side and doing it that way. So I went to school. I went to A&M for a few years. So junior year is when they sent us home from COVID. And before that, I had like 6 months of straight studying, like in the books, in the podcast, like literally I was at the gym working out the podcast and everything, just constantly learning and going to their meetups for the real estate events up there. So I found a deal like during that time, and I bought it with my family. They fronted the money. It was $50,000 was the purchase price. And then we put about 7 into it. And then we kept it as a rental because I was going to do the BRRRR method with that one. But then it got kind of hung up with the lender and everything. So we rented it out for 2 years, and then I ended up selling it for $125. So those numbers were pretty good on that one. And then in the meantime of coming home from COVID, I found another one that I bought for $15,000, and I got a bank loan with that one and paid that off. And after that, I had offered it up as owner finance deal. So asked for $15,000 down, and then I think the sales price was $58,000, I believe. So, and I think I'm charging like 10, I think somewhere around 10%. It's been forever. So that was like paying off my truck note. And this is all happening while they sent us home from COVID, and school kind of paused for a little bit. So I was like, seeing that I made that kind of money on both of those deals, and I come up to my parents, I'm like, hey, like I don't want to go back. Like, I'm sorry, I'm making decent living. Like, I mean, I don't know, down here, the average salary is probably about 50-ish, somewhere right around there. And I'm making that in 2 deals. And it took me not very long. So I was like, look, like, just let me try this. Let me do this. My mom was on my side. Like, she's like, yeah, like she's always been my cheerleader. But then my dad, he was a little hesitant at first, but then like him seeing my progress and everything, he slowly adapted to that. And now I've got both of them like rooting me on and stuff. So it's nice to have that backing of like, you can do it kind of deal. Yeah. And it's not like came from like a ton of money either. It's like 50,000. It's like, that's because when I tell this story, some people are like, oh yeah, he went in with parents, he got his parents to help. But it's like, I mean, it's really not a ton of money. And if they didn't have the 50, you can find the 50 from elsewhere. And that's kind of what I've been decent, trying to like finding money sources and stuff with the deals that I do get. So yeah, that's kind of like my intro to real estate and how I got into it, like, and go full time from there. But yeah,
it's kind of like I've heard a lot of stories like that. That was even kind of like myself. Like my first deal, I kind of just fell into it. I was like living in a condo, just was fixing it up, and then I sold it. And I was like, I just made my salary in a year from just fixing this up and selling it. And then you're like, what if I can just do this like more? So it seems like you kind of follow that same path, and you like came back from school and you like did one deal, and you're like, wait a minute, what the heck? Like, why don't I just do this?
Pretty much. No jokes. And that's kind of, I mean, it started snowballing and stuff. And the first couple of deals after those two, I had partnered up with some other people that had a little more money in the bank and everything. And we just went like 50-50 on those deals. So just to kind of get, like, they were my mentors on those deals, and just kind of built up. We did, I think it was like 2 or 3 after that I did before I went out and did it myself.
Yeah. So to back up on like when people say you got money from your parents and whatever, like that's how like a lot of people get into real estate. And second of all, like it doesn't matter how you got the money. It's the fact that you're executing on it is the biggest thing. Like the people that are saying that usually are the ones that if they got that money, they would just go out and buy like a toy with it. They wouldn't actually put it into investing and do the right thing with it to start a career, start an investment journey. It's kind of like what people say about like Donald Trump. They're like, oh, you got $1 million to start. But it's like, dude, he turned into $1 billion. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like, wait a minute. Like,
yeah.
You know,
There was this one guy, I remember this one guy in high school, and I was telling him that, like, we were going like back and forth on that. I'm like, the politics stuff is aside. I'm like, okay. He said, yeah, that's so easy. I'm like, no, it's not. Like, that is hard, and that's been stuck with me ever since. I'm like, that's pretty funny,
dude. It's taken $1 billion. That's basically taking, like, if I gave you $1,000, you got to go make $1 million with it, right? Is that the math?
Thing,
yeah,
right?
That's the math. Yeah, because 100,000 would have been. Yeah, it's like, come on, like that's hard, no matter what way you put it.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, like after that first deal, like what kind of got you going to go back and do it? Like, what is your drive and vision for the long term? And has it changed throughout, or did you initially get into that first like kind of fix and rent, and then you sort of flipped it after a few years, and you're like, I'm just gonna keep doing like fix and flipping? Like, what's kind of the way your mind wrapped around that first one, and how you sort of found your niche, if you found your niche already?
Yeah, so actually the flipping side, like the end sale side, I've kind of changed it up a little bit. But to take it back to like what got me into doing, like how defining my niche is, like I've done the rent, and I've done the flips, and I've done the owner finance and wholesale, like all in between. And that's like, I guess, I mean, rent works in areas and stuff like that, but it's like the tenants that I had, I was up knocking on their doors, like saying like, hey man, like you owe me money. And I just didn't want to do that. Like that didn't happen on just one. I mean, that happened on a couple houses where they just stop answering the phone, and like I got to go walk up there, and I'm like,
you know what's behind that door.
Oh yeah, I know. So that's just like, it kind of rubbed me wrong. And like really thinking the bigger picture, rent houses to me, like it's like there's better way. I mean, because I was listening to Ryan Pineda one day, and he said like you need to flip until like you make 250,000 every year, like just easy, and then you start doing flip houses. Because there's a lot of people that I talk to, and they're like, oh, I really want a rent house, and I'm like, the cash flow off of a rent house is a couple $100. Like it's not going to make you rich, it's not going to get you set up for anything, just like long-term stuff. But there's a better path. I mean, eventually that's what you want to get into and throw your money into, stuff like that. But to start off, you need like a good base of money to get some cash flow rolling.
Yeah, you need that active income, whether it's from you took the flipping route, but even if you're in like a normal W-2, like you just want to like be successful in there to get that initial base cash, so then you can buy those long-term investments for the passive income. Everybody talks about is passive real estate income. Like real estate investing because it's passive. No such thing as passive income in real estate investing, because no matter what, you got to manage. You got to manage somebody. You get a property manager, that's probably the most passive, but you're still going to be calling that property manager, what's going on here?
Yeah, that's what I was sold. I was sold on that idea, man. I was like, man, I got these rent houses, it can be passive. I'm over there just driving over to the house, knocking on the door. There's nothing passive about that. Like,
no, it's not a passive aggressiveness.
I know.
But yeah, like you hit the nail on the head there. Like that's why you see a lot of flippers doing like active flippers. They'll be doing flipping, but then they'll keep it maybe like 1 every 5 flips they'll keep as a rent. And they kind of build up that side portfolio as they're building like their active income that's getting those big checks to be able to put into those long terms. But yeah, so How many flips have you done, and kind of like where you're at with that? And then have you started getting back into the rental game, or is it just still kind of flipping, building up that momentum before you're ready to get back?
So I think I'm right around, I believe 20-ish, somewhere in that number. I don't really keep count of everything.
Yeah.
So the other way that I do sell these houses are through owner finance, and I love that.
Yep.
Just the peace of mind behind that is so nice.
Well, that's passive.
Yeah, yes. So I do like called a wrap mortgage. So I guess for those who don't know, it's that you get a refinance on the property and then you sell it to the end buyer, and they're paying down that note, and you're taking the money off the top every month for 30 years or however long they hold the house. So that's kind of my model, and it's to open up a whole nother category of buyers. It's not just FHA, conventional, VA, like just those opens it up to like there's a ton of people, especially in this area down here. There's a lot of owner finance buyers.
Yeah, and that's super smart. That's something that like I've always thought about getting into eventually too, because it's pretty damn safe for you. One, two, that's probably the most passive income investing you can get in real estate, because you're the note holder. You don't have to deal with any maintenance issues. You don't have to deal with any tenant issues unless they're not paying you, but then you just foreclose. But that's the safe factor of it, is like they put a down payment for you. You're holding the note basically, even though it's a wraparound note. If they don't pay you, you can technically foreclose on them, take the down payment, get them out. And It's a win for you. Sure, it's a little bit of headache dealing with the foreclosure portion of it, and you gotta pay the wraparound note while that's happening. But as long as you make it get the right person in there and qualify them, that's good. But that's and then you technically sell the notes on the secondary market. Have you looked into doing that?
Not yet. I mean, not really, because it's too big of a hit, I guess. I mean, you know what you get it for. So I'm not real interested in selling it currently, but I just did this one. So the numbers on and here's an example.
Break one down.
Bought the house for 55, I believe, and then I'm all in at 80,000. And so the house after that was worth 145. So I refinanced that. I took 100 out. So I paid off the 80, kept 20, and then I had a owner finance buyer for 155. So I got their 20,000 down. So I technically got 40,000, and then they're paying every month and making their payments. So I'm making, I think it's like a little under 600 a month, I believe, for 30 years. So it's a pretty good model right there.
Well, that, and you just basically doubled down on your equity by doing a BRRRR refinance, and then also had to put a down payment down. So you're like, boom, you're like creating your own leverage, like refinance leverage. You're doubling it. So that's brilliant. I haven't even thought about that. So you're making my brain work that I might.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Normally, there's not a lot of people. Yeah, there's not a lot of people that know this method and stuff. I mean, it's very complex and a lot of legal stuff that goes involved, especially after 3 a year, or in a year time frame. If you do more than 3, you're technically a lender. So you have to follow these rules like a lender would do, like underwriting the person and everything like that.
Yeah.
So there's a little more work involved in doing more than 3. But it's still, if you can get it right, it'll go pretty well.
Now, does the title transfer into their name when you close? Is it kind of like they're sub-2ing you in a way?
Yeah.
Got it. But instead of like the sub-2 that people think about, you're actually the one wanting to do it and like getting the major benefits from it in a way.
Yeah.
You're like setting it up for sub-2 instead of someone coming to you asking to sub-2. That's pretty cool.
When those sub-2 deals come through, it's like, I'm like always looking out for those, because it's already there, already set up. It's like having to go through all those hoops to get the financing, to pay them off, to get it refinanced, and then to get it in their name. It's already there. So that's a possibility too.
So when you do the wraparound mortgage and do the title and the name, this might be getting a little too detailed for people, but do you notify the bank and let them know that you're doing that so they don't like call the note, or you kind of just sneakily do it? Or as long as they're getting paid, they don't really care, right?
Yeah. So it's like I set all my stuff up through a third-party servicer. So they're making sure everything's getting paid, and then they'll shoot me my stuff.
Cool. So like they pay through the third party, and then the third party pays the mortgage and then pays you the difference.
Yeah. So there is instances that a bank can call that do on sale clause. So that's why I split the two liens up. So for that house, for instance, I have the 100,000 on one note, and then I have the 40,000 on the other. So just in case I have to sell that to pay it off, I'll still get that 40,000 of equity paying me.
Interesting. Yeah, that's super smart. Yeah, it's something I haven't really heard people do. I mean, I've heard of like sub 2 and stuff, but that like use it to your benefit extremely is awesome. Do you do more than 3 a year? Do you have to get certified and stuff? Or do you try to avoid that really?
So, I mean, I would like to, but I offer it as like one of my options. But
Yep.
I'll put it on the market for FHA, everything. And most of the time, there's a lot of traditional buyers that'll get to it first before those people can make a decision on their stuff. This year, currently, I've done 2, and I'm getting ready to do hopefully 2 more. I don't know how they're going to sell, but yeah, so I don't know.
That's awesome. Another cool thing about it too, before we move on from this, is instead of, I think just morally, it's pretty awesome because you're giving people an opportunity to then basically own a home rather than just paying rent, they get to own that home.
Yeah. I mean, that's what, like, obviously my interest rates are higher, but it's like, I want you to go to the bank. I want you to get qualified and then you can pay me off and I'm out. But if you can't and you really want the house, here is my option I have for you. You can decide to choose yes or no. But it's like, if you choose yes, it's like, yeah, I'm giving you an opportunity to get in that house. And it's a bigger risk for me than just selling it normal.
Yeah.
But it helps out. And then they can always refinance out and pay me after a couple years and everything. So, yeah.
Yeah, it helps people that might like at that moment just have like, they can't get qualified for it or something. They have some stuff going on, but it's just helping people. And it's giving an option. It's like you give the option of like, you can just buy it for me, but I am able to do some seller finance type deal. And you let them kind of pick whoever's interested.
For sure. Yep. That's kind of pretty much how it goes. And that's what I like about it, because these people they're really good people. And like this one, the one that I kind of broke down the numbers for, the guy, he bought it for his wife and he was really wanting to like give her something, and they could go through the bank or anything. So it was really kind of like a beautiful story.
Yeah. He bought her house as a gift, basically.
Like a love story. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like, man, that's some love right there. I don't know.
That is some, I want my girl to buy me a house. Just walk in.
That'd be sweet.
Right? But that's awesome. But yeah, that's really cool, man. Speaking of that, like, do you find in this market, are you getting more people interested in that? Or like, what's your take on the market right now and what you've been seeing and how you've been approaching it? Is the market more difficult? That's why you're kind of giving an option now? Or
yeah, so I went to like this this owner finance seminar or whatever. And this was, I don't remember when, maybe last summer. And that's when I kind of found out about this and everything. So the market, like here, has been cold. I mean, not cold, but it's like it's slowed way down the past couple months when I had a house for sale. But this is another thing that's like a plus side for that owner finance, is that those people that are in that owner finance world, they don't know what's going on with the market. They're so used to paying the higher interest. So like they don't even bat an eye at the rates and everything going up and down. It's like, mine's a flat fee and it works.
Yeah. So you're helping a different area of people in the market. They're just trying to find a place to live. They just want a place to buy a place, and whatever way they do it that makes sense, they'll just do it. They're not really keeping track of like the market and stuff.
Yeah. And then now it's pretty, I mean, it's heating up a little bit down here, especially. I mean, I just listed a house a couple days ago, got a ton of showings.
Yeah.
I got one offer, but we're still trying to negotiate a little bit.
That's exciting, dude. That's exciting. Now let's take it all the way back. I know you mentioned your first deal a little bit. Let's take it back to some of your first deals. And if you can bring one up and give a little detail on it of just how you got into doing it, lessons that you learned from it, like your first time going through, that you would tell yourself now before going into it, that would maybe help someone that's trying to get into it themselves right now. So
yeah, my main thing, like for getting started, is me personally, you can do it yourself. You can. There's been many people that have done it, but I strongly recommend your first couple deals to do it with a partner that has been involved in what you want to do, like flipping. And for me, I went to these people that have done this for years, and I brought them the deal, and I was the grunt person for running to get materials, all that stuff, just to learn the whole process of everything. Crews, like learning how to run the crews and how to manage them, has kind of, now I know how to do that, and I can pass it down to who I need to, like on my team. I have a project manager now that handles that. So just to like teach him the ways and stuff like that. So it's just like really, I mean, learning from experience experience is my main big golden nugget. If you want to do this long time, you bring this deal, you're like, oh man, like there's a ton of equity on this deal, but I can use hard money to do this and do it myself, but I don't have any experience, or I could go half it with somebody that has it. But you have to think, like, you got to think long term.
Yeah.
And especially it builds up those connections and stuff. So now, like, those people that I've done the partnerships with, they trust me, they know what I do. And whenever I call them up, so now our money splits have kind of changed a little through the years.
Yeah.
And now they feel more comfortable with the deals that they're getting.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good nugget to give, is basically you don't have to go into like investing yourself, and you shouldn't. You need to be open-minded. And because if you just go on yourself and you make that mistake that maybe cost you like a whole deal, it cost you some money, be able to kind of learn. You're gonna be able to like actually reap the fruits of your labor later on, because you're just gonna basically get a negative mindset right off the bat. Like, you heard those people that got into real estate and they're immediately like, screw that, like that's off, tenants are awful, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
It's because they just went in themselves, didn't learn before, and they got all the bad stuff possible thrown at them because they didn't prepare. But having a mentor and stuff, working with someone that has experience, definitely can help prepare you. And if you do go through bad stuff with them, they'll tell you, hey, this is real estate, this is how you get over it. You just keep moving forward.
I mean, that first deal can make or break you. Like, if that's gonna be your passion and you're doing it for years, that first deal like is a strong indicator of like, okay, like if I would have just failed and I would have lost $50,000 and then the 15,000, I'd be like, all right, I'm out. Maybe this ain't. That is huge. That is a huge piece of advice.
Yeah, that's a good one too. So other than that, like, do you have any detailed like challenges that you've gone through that are like pretty specific that you overcame, that maybe at the moment you were like, dang, what is going on here? But then you found a way out, like you saw the light, and then you're like, okay, well, I can get over anything in real estate then if I can get over that. Is there something you bring up? Like,
oh yeah, I know the deal. Gosh. All right. So back it up. I'm a sponsor a real estate investor meetup. We do it every last Wednesday of the month. And there's one deal that came from one of the lenders. It was a bundle deal of 3 houses. And like me being so anxious, oh, this is a great deal. Yeah. And I walked in, the houses are like, they're shit. It's bad. So one of the houses I actually finished up and sold as the owner finance deal, the same method that with that wrap stuff. And then the second house, I think they averaged out to be like $58,000 per house.
Were they on the same lot?
No. It was different, but it was from somebody that defaulted on their loan. So
they were package deal.
Yeah. So I got the house for 58. And normally for me, like since I own, now I got my crews and everything. So normally I can do a really good job for about 25 to 30,000. Like that's probably my, like do that like pretty easy. I can do a full house for that. So before finding the people that I have now, I went through a ton of other contractors, and me being young, I wanted to cut it down. You know, it's like, oh, why is this guy charging this much? Let me go with this cheaper guy. And that has been a freaking nightmare. And that's a video I was just making today about this deal right here. So I'm all in right now. Probably I'm getting close to like 110 total.
Wow, yeah.
So I've paid this is my 4th time to fix the foundation and pay the people. And another thing with me being like going the cheap route was hiring people for like daily, like their daily rate. Because I thought like when these people were giving me, oh, I'll do it for $20,000, I'd be breaking it down like how many days is that going to work? Like how many days that, oh dang, it's like this much a day. And they're charging this much a day. I'm like, that's a way better deal. So I went with that route, and this was probably about, 3 or 4 weeks worth of stuff, and there was hardly anything getting done. And I was like,
oh yeah, when you start paying someone daily, they milk it.
I show up there, they're all just lounging outside in the front. I'm like, all right, let's get to work. Because there was one week where I'm like, I walked through, I literally could have took a picture and it would have been the same thing. And I'm paying them. It was like, I forgot how many people it was, but it's like $5,000 a week, right around there, for the crew to just not be doing anything. And I was like, oh, this is rough. So I've learned my lesson, and I hope whoever's listening to this, please don't do that and don't go cheap. Like, because you might get by a couple times, but at the end of the day, it's really better to have that professional contractor that knows what they're doing, has your best interest at heart, and can really like look after you.
Yeah, I always say like the best way to get quotes is kind of you get 3, and whatever the middle one is, that's usually the one you might want to go with. Cheaper one, there's 3 things you do. It's like cheap, fast, and good, right? And you can only pick 2 of them. So pick good and cheap, but it's going to take forever. You can pick, fast and cheap, but it's not going to be good and fast, but it's not going to be cheap. So you got to pick one of those and deal with like the outcome of the one that you don't get. And the way that I do it is get 3 quotes, pick the middle one. If that one works, that's awesome. If not, at least like usually that middle one's not going to be too awful. But yeah, from my experience too, going with the cheap ones, like I ran into problems like contractors just like not showing up, like they take your money, they just bounce. I'm like, ugh, it's always the cheap ones, right? So you can go cheap, but it's risky. If you go expensive, like it's going to get done, but it's going to be expensive. So you kind of want to do that middle route. Like how would you approach it differently now, like with this one?
Well, that's another thing is like understanding like these, like if you're starting off, it's like the cheap one looks good and you're about to make this much money on it. And you're like, oh, like that's a ton of money. Yeah. But like, you have to step out and look at the big picture of how you want the like stuff to run. Like the bigger you get, the more you scale, the less profits you're going to take on these deals, but the more you can scale.
Yeah, more volume.
Yeah. So that's like, I mean, and it's so hard for somebody to say like, look, they're saying the same thing, but they're like so much cheaper. And it's really hard to get that person to be like, oh yeah, okay, like let me spend an extra couple $1,000s to get this person to do the same mark the other one. And it's like, it's trial and error. I mean, I want to tell everybody like, don't do it. But when it's right in front of your face and it's your money, it is hard. Yeah.
You see that shiny thing, you're like, ooh.
You do. I know. I know. So that's kind of that was kind of like how my renovation business kind of got started in a sense, that people were seeing my flips and everything. And I finally kind of weeded out the bad guys and have my like core group of contractors that I use for everything. So they're like, hey, like I saw that you did that shower or that kitchen. Like we want it over here at our house. I'm like, okay. I say, yeah, go get tell my guys to go look at it, check it out, and then I'll get a price and hand it in. I'm like, they're like, okay, yeah, let's go. Like, dang, that was easy. And then
you're basically you're helping them because you're referring them around too, getting them business. So
yeah. And then that's what I mean, I just like wanted to do a lot of that stuff just because I mean, I've been through everything. Like I've been through the bad crews and everything. So I've like, when you come to me, know that you got like good work, like good workers and everything like that. You're going to pay a little more, obviously, but I've been through it. I've weeded out all the bad ones and like, I've got a good little solid squad now.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, there's no way not to run into like a bad contractor here and there, but there's ways to kind of sift through them easier so you get more good than bad. And I think it's just based on experience, really. Like once you start going, like for you yourself, you've been through so many contractors, you just kind of learned the signs and what to look out for like good ones and what shows if they're going to possibly be bad. And it goes to show like for people that are new trying to get into it, it's going to take some time to learn. You're not just going to immediately hit the best people to use. It's a people business. So you got to learn people. You got to learn about what they're doing. Like you got to learn about their story and what they're trying to do and help lead them basically, because you're a leader of your business. You're a leader of the contractors. You're a leader of the project. You got to be smart with how you approach it. But yeah, like even, did you ever do any flips like yourself with just like you doing like some of the work?
Yes, I did. Okay. So that was that first deal that I went back to my parents. So my dad funded it and I was brought the deal. I did some work, and that's where we start butting heads, is doing the work, because he can do a lot of stuff like with his hands. He knows like a lot of like how to do things. I know how to do them, but I don't like, my business mind is like, all right, how do you run this like by itself? Like that's what you got to you really need to like learn how to run systems, this business. Like you can save some money going to do it. But yeah, I remember I was up on the stairs, like ripping off the carpet and pulling the nails out and everything. I'm like, man, screw this. I was pissed, but it was a good learning lesson because now I can see, and I know what to look for and stuff, that to know like how I'm not getting screwed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to get into, is like you did it yourself once. So one, you kind of know how the work is, you know, if someone's like kind of bullshitting you, and you know also the ones that you could do yourself if you had to, like worst case scenario, but you also know the ones that you would never ever want to do again. Probably you're like, I'm paying someone to do that.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Just about everything like is what I'm trying to do. It's like, so now I've got like a business coach right now today we're talking about like getting everything systematized. So it's like running systems for all the 3 of those businesses. So the renovation business is more like that's easily convertible to kind of running itself. And the other 2 are a work in progress, but there's a little more like detailed things that go into those and other people. So it's a little harder to get those up and running. But pretty much right now we've got the renovations down.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I guess like kind of piggyback off of that, you might have said it, but I just wanted to hop in. Like, what is the one biggest lesson that you learned from just so far in your career of real estate investing, that if someone's getting started, like what's the biggest thing you would say? If it is don't go with the cheap way, then you can just say that is it. But if there's another one you can think of, or there's one that's bigger that you didn't mention.
Definitely. So obviously don't go cheap. Hire Walker Renovations and Remodeling.
Yeah.
For all of your needs. But no, I would say another thing is like learning how to underwrite a deal. Like if you can do that really well, the money will come, like no matter from where. Shoot, I'm a lender on that stuff. You are as well. Like if you can underwrite a deal, like I can get you the money for that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like really a huge piece of advice there. Like how to run crews and everything like that, just to make sure you're not getting screwed and everything. Just to make sure you're actively checking up on them. Because it's easy to just like, here, write the check, tell me when it's done. You don't ever really go out to the property to walk it or anything like that, or have somebody to do that.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's kind of my main big things of advice to do. But underwriting is huge.
Yeah, it's all about the numbers. It's not real estate. It's like a numbers game. And I guess, yeah, to piggyback off of that, like learn to underwrite, I think that's huge. And when you learn to really underwrite, you take the emotion out of it. So you can't get emotional in investing. Like you can't be like, I just want this because I just want it. Like there's other people bidding on it and I want it. Like do the numbers. And if people are bidding past like what the numbers say is good, like don't just go on to the next one. There's another deal. Like maybe they're bidding with emotion and they're going to get maybe screwed. Maybe they know something you don't, but who cares? Like you're not relying on the numbers, right?
Yeah, that's what screwed me on that. I mean, that bundle deal we were talking about is just like getting too ambitious to get something. Yeah. Like I really wanted to get a deal and I went and bought a deal and I'm like, all right, now what? So, yeah. So please, whoever's listening, learn not to don't do that, please. I've done it and I promise it doesn't work out as planned.
Yeah. Also, you got to be aware of the investing addiction. Once you buy one property in real estate, you're just like, I want the next. It's kind of like getting a tattoo. You get one tattoo, you're like, I need the next. Like you just want it. And like sometimes you just got to be like, slow down. Like it'll come. Just make sure it's a good deal. It doesn't have to be a slam dunk. You don't want a bad deal. You just don't want it.
No, you don't. It's a slow game. And that's what it's, you hear and you see all these big wigs and stuff that like they're cranking out properties like all the time. But getting started, it like understand, like you don't want to have to do like 3 deals at once. Like you can't do that yet. I mean, there's other people, like if you have a partner that's involved in this, that's a totally different story. But like you yourself do one at a time and learn the ropes and then start scaling. Just like to get those processes down with one, and then you can open up those processes to other jobs. So now you're running 2, now you're running 3. So like kind of can spread out, but using the same techniques on every one of them.
Yeah, it's a slow game. Real estate's a slow game anyway you take it, even if it's fixing and flipping, even if it's long-term investing, it's all a game of patience and time. And then you slowly scale. And I think one of the bad things about social media nowadays, you got a lot of those gurus out there being like, you can do this. I just flipped 4 properties and made $300,000 and they're trying to sell you a course about it. Like I guarantee you, first of all, those people probably didn't do that. Probably read a book how to do it and they're saying that they did and they're trying to sell you a course. So yeah, to piggyback off of that too, it's like you got to find the right people to kind of learn from and the right mentors to kind of be with that have been in the game a long time and have track record and proof of doing it. And that'll kind of help you get going. Speaking of that, kind of like what is like the most effective resources that you've used to get started and what do you use now and what educational tools did you dive into to enhance your career and your journey? Where would you point people to?
Well, I mean, yeah, that was what like at the beginning when we were talking, like the books and the podcasts are huge. I mean, I'm sure everybody knows what Bigger Pockets is if you're listening to this, but Bigger Pockets, I was on listening to every day, every single day. Like I would turn my truck into a library. I'd be at the gym listening to those podcasts and everything. But for the books, I mean, this is my test. I tell people to come, like when people come ask me like, hey, like what can you tell me like how to get involved? Like how do you start and everything? I say like read Rich Dad Poor Dad and then come talk to me and then we can start. I've told a ton of people this and just to weed out the ones to see like who really like wants it. And there's been one person that's read the full book and everybody else kind of falls out and just does. So that's how I know, like, because it's my time that's on the line, that when all these people they're trying to come pick my brain and stuff. And it's like, if you're not going to be like 100% in, I don't want to mess with you.
No, yeah, that's smart. Especially like now that you have stuff going on and people might come to you for like mentorships and stuff, questions. You're kind of like, you got to do that. You got to weed some people out because your time is valuable. But if you find someone that does have that ambition and could possibly partner with you, that's great.
Yeah.
I do the same thing with the books. I send people like Brandon Turner's first rental property investing book, like the white cover with the blue font. That's one. And then Investing with Low and No Money Down is the other one. And then Rich Dad Poor Dad, obviously, is the other one. And I'll usually shoot out, like, read these books. Once you read them, come back. I usually never hear from them again.
Yeah. Well, I know it's a shame, man. Like that's what I've read so many books, like because it just starts to get an addiction. I love learning about that stuff. It's like I've been in the flip stuff for a while now, but I still like to learn those little key things. And another thing that I would recommend is like go to those investor meetups, because that's what, I mean, you start showing your face a lot. You meet wholesalers. Like we had ours this past Wednesday, and I'm a sponsor there now. And so I've kind of made my face known here locally that I do what I do. And then there's people bring you deals. Like it gets easy. I mean, that's why I'm trying to cater like my videos now, like on my Instagram and everything, to educational stuff and to make people know. And like I walk in there, they're like, man, I see your videos. Like I love your videos. I love them. There was a ton of people. I'm like, dang, like I didn't even think that those really get watched, but it's by the right people.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I had a buddy of mine, one of my partners up in New England. He wasn't into social media at all, and he was getting into real estate investing, and he's doing amazing now. He went from like 0 to 150 units in like 3 years. But I remember I was telling him, like, you should probably start posting on social media. It'll help you grow even faster. And now I can't open Instagram without seeing his face anywhere. Like he has pictures and photos and videos, educational stuff everywhere. You as well. I mean, I see you all the time pop up. I'm like, damn, I should probably start doing that.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it takes, especially now that like you're VA, I've got mine that edits my stuff. And, you know, it's like literally you just sit down in front of a camera, you talk, you say a quick little tip or whatever, and then you send it over to them. They'll cut it up and make the videos and everything. And it's like, that like 10 minutes worth of stuff, it's content for a long time.
And it builds trustworthiness, and it gets you out there. It's all about networking. Like the more you network, the more people you touch, the more deals you can get, and the more you can help people too. So I was going to ask you what your number one book would be to recommend. Is it Rich Dad Poor Dad? Is that what it is? Or do you got another one?
Man, that's the one. I know that's everybody. I've listened to a ton of podcasts, and they ask that question. It's always that book. And that's my answer for that. I've read that one twice, and just like it's a constant like reminder of just to get your mind right, like with business and money.
Yeah, it is a great book, and it's written pretty straightforward. Like it's not that complicated to read. It kind of breaks it down really nicely. This is kind of like, this is how you should look at it. It's a nice one. I got to read it again. I read it like 3 years ago. Yeah. And I got to pick it up and read it again for sure. That should be like a yearly thing that I do.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, you don't have to like read the full thing either. Like at the end of those chapters, they have like a summary of it if you kind of want to just like breeze through pretty quick. Just like, a good little reminder.
Yeah. Then obviously meetups are awesome too. But yeah, I just want to wrap this up with you. If you just want to basically tell anything to the audience, like your social media handles, you talk about meetups, people in the area, or local meetups that you go to and you sponsor some, if you want to tell them where that is, what that is, if you have charity events, whatever your business links are, how to contact you, is your time to kind of just let people know.
Gotcha. Well, cool. Well, I want to, for one, I guess, to just say thank you for having me on. It's been a good little talk, man. Good talk with a lot of information that people can go out and go do. That's my biggest piece of advice, is just going out and making sure that you do something. And if you succeed or fail, you're going to learn in both ways. Yeah. But to reach out to me, my main thing is Instagram. I got at Walker Texas Investor. I got a website, www.investwalker.com. And if you're in the area, if you're in the Southeast Texas area, listen to this. We host a meetup every last Wednesday of the month. So I'd love to see you out at the next one and come learn, come meet people, and just get involved in the real estate world. It's pretty fun and it's challenging, but it's very rewarding when it pays off.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah, that's awesome. What's that meetup called?
It's 409 Real Estate Investing Group.
Awesome. Yeah, just in case people wanted to hear that. You can probably follow Christian's Instagram and social media stuff. I'm sure he posts about it when it's coming up as well. So then you can meet him there. But awesome. Yeah, thank you again, Christian, for taking time to come on this. Ton of information that you gave, which is awesome. And we'll keep in touch as we keep doing stuff, and then hopefully get you back on this too later down the line when you're growing and doing more stuff. You can bring more educational tips as well.
For sure. I'd love to be back, man. I'd love it. Let's make it happen.
Yes, sir. All right. Peace.